Good evening and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the All Candidates meeting. My name is Rakshanda. I work as the Seniors and Accessible Services Librarian at the North Vancouver City Library. I would like to express my gratitude that I'm able to work and live on the beautiful, ancestral, traditional, and unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Squamish Nation and the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. Before I hand it over to the candidates for their introductions, I'm going to go over some guidelines for tonight. This meeting is in a webinar format and is being recorded. The audio and video for the audience is switched off. Each candidate gets 2 minutes to introduce themselves and talk about one critical issue they are passionate about. Please don't share your screens. There will be a timer for 2 minutes, and I'll give you a 5-second warning. After the introductions, I will ask each candidate the questions. Each candidate will get a turn to answer. The order for questioning has been decided by a random draw. We will ask the council candidates some questions and then turn it over to the mayoral candidates. Please note that these questions are that the public sent us, and we have tried to include as many as we could this evening. Thank you.
Shana. My name is Kathy McGrenra, and I'm running for council. I'm fortunate to be born and raised here in North Vancouver, and I'm really excited to give back to my community in a different way being on council. I've been a long-time community volunteer, and this would be a new way to participate. It's a great community here, but we do have a lot of challenges that we face in North Vancouver. Challenges with climate emergency, an affordability emergency, transportation, supporting local business, reconciliation with our neighbors, the Squamish Nation, and providing housing options that meet the needs of everyone in our community. And so I would like to work together with mayor and council to face these challenges boldly. What I bring to work as a councillor, my background is that I was one of the founding members of Quayside Village Co-Housing, which is here in North Vancouver at 5th and Chesterfield, the building that houses the Bean on 5th coffee shop. And that was a group of citizens that got together and decided to build a community. It's a concept out of Denmark. And here at Quayside, we were able to provide a quarter of the units as affordable housing. We have a lot of environmental sustainability initiatives, and we also build a vibrant community where we're able to support both young families, all ages, and aging in place. And so knowing how this has worked for me for the past 24 years, I got involved with project management for 2 other projects. And so at Driftwood Co-Housing, just up the street from us, we were also able to build.
Sorry, Angela, I'll have to mute you there, Kathy. I apologize. I have to stick with the 2-minute timing. Thank you so much. Next is Angela.
Thanks very much. My name is Angela Gerard, and I'm running for re-election in the city of North Vancouver. I've lived on the North Shore for the past 20 years and have experienced our city from the perspective of being a small business owner, a working professional, a city councillor now, and a volunteer, as well as being a mother. My love for public service started at a very young age with my father being elected as a 6th-term MLA in rural Manitoba, where I witnessed him serving many immigrant and First Nation families. My parents, who are Polish and Ukrainian heritage and of humble beginnings, taught me the values of listening to others, advocating for people, standing up for one's beliefs, and giving back to community. And I believe community begins with people. A caring community begins with small conversations about big issues. And we know our community is facing big issues. A lack of affordable housing, long commute times, a lack of childcare, and an uncertain climate future. My priorities if being re-elected would be to build more diverse housing options to ensure that those who work here can find a home they can afford. Push for the completion of the Burrard Inland Rapid Transit to expand upon mobility options to reduce traffic. Take advantage of provincial funding to create more non-profit childcare spaces to meet our very growing demand for childcare. Reduce our city's carbon emissions to net zero by 2050 and build climate resiliency to support our climate and environment strategy. And last but not least, to incorporate equity, diversity and inclusion, and truth and reconciliation in all aspects of city governance. Please visit my website, angelagerard.ca, and please do feel free to reach out before October the 15th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela. Next up, we have Max.
Okay, hi, my name is Max Lai. I'm running for the city of North Vancouver. I was born and raised in North Vancouver, and so I consider North Shore my home. I'm here in this election because I want to sort of give back to our community by providing the same and better opportunities I was given to live on the North Shore. So I'm running because I'm driven to be a councillor that is the interface between the community that we represent and the policymakers that we look to improve and make our community better. I believe that the goal as a councillor is to be that public resource for the community, that they are able to translate what we're doing in the council meetings to the public, and so to maintain that sort of open loop of communicational feedback. My main goal as a councillor is to be that resource and to be that voice, to increase that ease of accessibility for residents of all ages that do want to get into municipal politics, that do want to be able to get engaged. For instance, just take agenda packages, for example. While they're accessible on the CMD website, they aren't really truly accessible. And as much as political research is a passion of mine, it's a bit strenuous to have to read agenda packages that could be varying from like 100 to like 700 pages long. And then you have to do all the other inducing research to make sure that you fully understand the topic. But for me, open communication isn't the only thing that I want to bring. Whether the topic is on new housing developments, affordable housing, zoning bylaws, infrastructure, bike initiatives, climate policy, any sort of things, I sort of want to bring that energy, enthusiasm, and drive to be as informed or over-informed on all policies that come to council meetings. So as you know, political research is a passion of mine. And I want to use this passion to constantly listen, learn, and understand important issues, such as affordable housing to transit alternatives. Because I understand that the decisions we make will never appease everyone. That's literally our job description. That's why we are becoming politicians. But the last time I checked, I'm running to represent our community of the city of North Vancouver, not just for the people who just agreed. Thanks.
Thank you, Max. Next is Jessica.
Thank you very much. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this meeting is virtually, and those at the library, physically taking place on the unceded and ancestral lands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. So my name is Jessica McElroy, and I'm a current councillor looking for re-election. And it has been an absolute privilege to serve the city of North Vancouver and all of its residents over the past term. All of us, the city included, have been through numerous challenges over the past 2.5, almost 3 years. However, I believe that we've collectively worked together as a community to face those challenges head on and focus on moving forward. And I'm proud of the work that we have done. And I'm running to continue that work because there are so many pieces that really need to be completed and implemented and continue in the great direction that we've been working. The main priority for myself is to ensure that the city's new climate and environment strategy is adopted and implemented. And I've been the chair of the task force for that work and brought it forward and called for that work in the beginning of the last term. So the city does need to ensure that its gray, green, and social infrastructure is prepared for the next climate events that we know we're going to face in an altered future. And also for advanced policies and regulations that we need to put in place and that will also be faced from the other levels of government in the changing world around us. And the city does play an important role in addressing planetary health, our physical and emotional well-being as humans, and our ecosystem well-being and our green spaces. So I intend to continue the work of integrating the city's housing, mobility, climate, economic, and social well-being plans and actions, because we need to deepen our understanding of the connectivity of all of these priorities, because they all influence each other, and they all contribute to our overall quality of life. So while we address the housing crisis and the mobility crisis, it's all connected to the climate crisis. And I'm looking forward to collaboratively working together to solve all of these challenges together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Guy, you're up next.
Thank you very much. My name is Guy Haywood. I was a candidate for mayor in the last election, and I looked forward to this opportunity to run again. I think there was a message in that election that was calling for change that wasn't expressed in the result, and I'm here to allow the electors to have the chance to make that statement again. I have been on council for 2 terms, and I was on school board for 3 terms before that. I raised a family here. I moved here when my father was made the head of the RCMP detachment. And I have had a wonderful life living and growing and becoming aware of our community. But we've gone through some really big change. And I think the way we do local government needs to change as well. Our governments are incredibly important. They're also powerful in many ways. They need to be better aligned with our community. What I hear is that there's just no way that a lack of communication and coordination between our governments couldn't be part of the problem with the development and transportation gridlock we find ourselves. So I'm here to try and listen and bring together people in a positive and constructive way. My background is 30 years in banking and business and corporate management, but I also have a deep background in the public sector as well. So I'm looking forward to listening. I am spending a lot of time putting out information on my website and trying to engage in dialogue. Really have been at this for 30 years, and I think I am in the right place at the right time to help the community take the next step forward and look at the way our governments are structured and try and make sure they adapt the way the rest of us have had to adapt to this new world. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Next, I have Don.
Hi, my name is Don Bell. I've been a 53-year resident of the city of North Vancouver, of the North Shore, and a 16-year resident of the North Vancouver City. I have had previous experience as a councillor and mayor of the district of North Vancouver, as a school trustee and chair of the school board, and as a member of parliament. And for the last 3 terms, I have been a city of North Vancouver councillor. I like to feel that I can bring experience and a common sense approach to dealing with the issues that come before council. My main concerns relate to the effect of density and building and the needs that creates, or the problems that creates for transit, lack of transit, traffic congestion. So managing development and density to ensure that these things go hand in hand and one doesn't get out ahead of the other. It also, I'm concerned about generally a lack of parking, both in buildings and on the streets. And people are aligned with that is the question of housing affordability and the ability of people to be able to live and work on the North Shore, which addresses the issue of the necessity of reducing the need to commute to Vancouver or Burnaby or somewhere else. Climate action is also a high priority of mine, and I was introduced the tree bylaw that is now in the city of North Vancouver. I think that those are actions that council is taking that are responsible. I'm happy to expand on them in the questions we have before us tonight. So again, I've enjoyed serving the people. I like to get out and listen and discuss issues with people, and I ask for your support on October 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Next is Tony.
Thanks very much. I'm happy to be here tonight. So I'm Tony Valente. I've been an active member of our city council for the last 4 years, and I'm really excited about the opportunity of serving for another 4 years. I moved to North Vancouver in the 1990s, and I went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, and I was briefly away for work and life, and I came back in the 2000s. I have a Master's of Business Administration, and I work on large infrastructure projects in a project and risk management role. Before being elected in 2018, I was active in the community for more than a decade, actually, promoting street safety for all street users, as well as advocating for better public transit and pushing for quality public spaces in our city. And specifically, I was a founding member of the North Van Urban Forum, and this group advocated for and ran consultations to bring together feedback on what our waterfront could be like, and I think made a really great contribution to the shipyards in Lower Lonsdale. I'm really passionate about engaging with people in the changes that come to our city, and I think this comes from the advocacy background that I've come from, and I think it translates well into this councillor role. Throughout this term, I've really worked hard to make myself accessible to people, going to meet them, to understand their issues, to see what they were concerned about on the ground and hear those concerns as well. I'm running for council again to continue to advance a vision of a vibrant, diverse city of North Vancouver, where transportation and housing options abound, and our public spaces are loved by all those who use them. All of this, I think, can be supported by a really strong local economy where our small businesses thrive. And everything that we're doing and everything that's in this vision really does depend on preparing the city for a changing climate, as well as making sure that we stop contributing to that change. I really appreciate the opportunity again to be here tonight, and I look forward to serving you in this coming term if that's what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Shervin.
Hello, I am Shervin Shariari. I have lived in North Vancouver for 38 years, and I love this community. I live with my wife and daughter in central Lonsdale near Mahon Park. My daughter was born here and she just graduated from Carson Graham Secondary. Back in the 90s, I served as a youth worker with Family Services North Shore and went on to be a volunteer for 2 decades. I served on North Van Museum and Archives for 7 years, and for 2 of those years, I was chair of the commission. I served on North Vancouver City Library Board for 6 years, and I was chair for 5 years. I wrote a book, North Vancouver's Lonsdale Neighborhood, and I am now a lecturer of business and project management at Langara College. I was previously a senior planning manager at TransLink. Sadly, we are speaking about some of the same issues we spoke about 4 years ago: traffic, housing, insufficient transit, and recruiting and retention challenges. I would like to put my third elected to council. People who work here cannot afford to live here, and they end up commuting every day, resulting in traffic, pollution, parking, employee retention challenges. I will increase and prioritize affordable housing for people who work here, and I'm concerned that this key issue had not been addressed by current council. With your support on October 15th, I will increase and prioritize affordable housing for people who work here, but also for people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shervin. Linda.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking the library for organizing tonight's event. I would also like to acknowledge we are gathered on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam First Nation, and I thank them for sharing this land with us. I have always believed that communities are about people, and people are actually my passion. This belief has always guided my work, and particularly as we are confronted with the challenges of the past few years. It has never been more important to build a caring, inclusive, and connected community. Over the past term, we have secured rapid transit commitment from TransLink, as well as increased bus, C-Bus, and Handy Dart service. We broke ground on the new Harry Jerome Community Centre and Silver Harbour Senior Centre. We advanced innovative housing solution and expanded our urban tree canopy. We built relationships with Indigenous governments. We opened the shipyards, new Lawn Bowling Greens, the North Vancouver Museum, the Lower Lonsdale Brewery District, and so much more. While some challenges are behind us, there is more work to do. This is not the time to settle. Now is the time for bold, decisive action. We cannot go backwards and put at risk the progress we have made together. I'm running for re-election so that together we can continue to provide transportation solutions that work for all people, to deliver housing options so that all people can call our city home, to create new childcare spaces so families are supported, to protect our natural environment for generations to come. These are the values that have guided me these past 4 years and the ones I will continue to embrace as your mayor. I have never been more optimistic about what we can accomplish together as a community. I'm Linda Buchanan. On October 15th, I ask for your vote so that together we can continue to build a city for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Jeremy.
Thank you for hosting this event. I think we've listened to a bunch of speakers now, and it's really an impressive group of people that are willing to take the time out of their lives and commit to running for elective office. This is my first time running for elective office. My name is Jeremy Cato, and I'm a candidate for councillor in the city of North Vancouver. Now, I was prompted to run for election run for council in this election, really out of pure frustration with the endlessly chaotic development that we have been living with on the North Shore for quite some time. We all live with it. We see the cranes blocking streets and the various roadblocks here and there. And we could live with development if this was solving our housing affordability crisis, but it's not. We don't have a housing affordability crisis. We don't have a housing availability crisis. We have a housing affordability crisis. And this uncompromised build agenda has really not solved the problem. We, in fact, have enough new construction in the city to meet our population projections out to 2040. So we have an affordability problem that we can address in a number of ways. And this brings me to the second reason I was prodded into running for election, to ease gridlock, to support housing affordability and act on climate change. We absolutely must have real rapid transit, not rubber wheel buses disguised as streetcars, but real rapid transit, and that does mean light rail. The third reason I chose to jump into this election was I hear it all the time. There's widespread cynicism and some very negative perceptions about elective office in this city, and I think this is reflected in the fact that about a third of the people voted who were eligible to vote in the last election. The current mayor, was elected with 10% of the eligible vote. So I'm running as an independent candidate with no ties to any special interest groups. And I'm not accepting money from developers or anything else of that nature. If you want to...
Sorry, Jeremy, I'll have to mute you. Time's up. Next, I have Ron.
Thank you. Anyways, thank you, everybody, for putting this on. I'm a long-term resident of the city of North Vancouver. I've been involved in a lot of the community issues over the years, volunteered on committees, been involved in the Parks and Environment Committee, and a lot of our schools, child welfare, animal welfare, and so on. I've run before for council and failed. I'm running again. I'm an independent thinker. I want to be an independent person on council. I feel we have a lot of issues to deal with. I do think our development hasn't kept up with our infrastructure. One thing I've noticed is the loss of green space in the city of North Vancouver. That's one thing that's on my priority to restore. I would like to, I have to put this on now. I'd like to get a newer park in Lower Lonsdale. I would like to get the budget under control. Property taxes are going up every year, and it's becoming very unaffordable for a lot of people. I like to get traffic and people moving again. We have a lot of issues on the North Shore, and I agree with getting the light rail here. I like to get the retain public lands. I'd like to, we've been, losing, we're down to about 30% on our green ratio to population. So encourage that to get going again. I'd like to retain older rental stock. It seems to be the most affordable rental housing we've got right now. I'd like to work towards co-op housing. I would like to work with developers or work with senior assisted housing. I don't think we got enough of that going in, and I'd like to make sure it's got full care and life care. I'd like to promote ownership co-op. I'd like to make the council open again. Okay, thank you very much. Ron Pauly, done.
Thank you, Ron. I have Holly next.
Sorry about that. Good evening. I'm very happy to be here tonight and appreciate the opportunity to listen to your concerns and answer your questions. When I was first elected to council in 2014, my goal was to be the liaison with our citizens and community groups, to represent the diversity of our community, and to be a voice for small business. The issues facing our community may have changed slightly, but the need for strong council leadership has not. I share the concerns as my colleagues. We continue to face traffic congestion and housing affordability on the North Shore. Through planning and hard work, we're making steady progress, and I will continue to push for solutions that benefit our community. Community amenities are also important to our health and well-being. Heritage Rome, Silver Harbor, and North Shore Neighborhood House are all well on their way, and I will work hard to ensure that these projects stay on track. I would also like to work more closely with our LGBTQ+ community to ensure that our city remains welcoming for everyone, and to continue collaboration with the province to provide accessible and affordable mental health resources, especially for our youth. Just as important as our goals is how we work to achieve them. I feel one of the most important qualities of a councillor is the ability to listen, so that you are heard and that your concerns and ideas are valued. To be inclusive and collaborative in my approach with you, other members of council, and with staff. To gain the knowledge to make decisions that are right for our community, and to be fair and transparent in my decision making. These are the principles I have followed both personally and professionally. And with your support, I will continue representing you on City Council. So I thank you, and I look forward to listening to you and answering your questions throughout tonight's meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Holly. Anne.
Thank you, Rakshanda, and good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to apologize for my screen. I probably will look funny on your end because I bought my laptop before the pandemic and the camera is on the lower left side, so I'm sorry about that. My name is Mian Laseste, and I've been a resident of the North Shore for 31 years and 29 years in the city. I'm an insurance advisor, a business owner, and also a poet. Why am I running? There are really many reasons why I'm running, but I'm just a regular mom. I'm not a politician. And part of the reason really that I'm running is just to represent the minorities and the underrepresented groups. I'd like to be the voice for everyone, not just them as well. One of the things I really enjoyed when I started talking to people, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous that this is more difficult for me on Zoom than in person for some reason. But anyway, I really enjoyed talking to people, and that's my personality. And so these are the things that I enjoy since I started door knocking. And so what I want really, if possible, is to be the voice of everyone. Earlier at the Chamber of Commerce mixer, I was asked, "Who are you, Mian?" And I thought about it, and the only thing I could say was, I'm a warrior. I came here as a first-generation immigrant. I've survived many challenges, but one of the things that I love the most is that Canada welcomed me, and this is now my home. My idealistic goal is to contribute to the community. My kids are grown, and I just really want to give back. And as a warrior, I would champion your causes. I would like to work with you and be your champion and your warrior. Thank you.
Thank you, Mian. Anna.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Annabelle Tanko. And I wonder, how many times you heard a story that our families, friends, and neighbors were pushed out of the city they loved and lived for all their life? How many times you see homeless people on our streets, or moms with their kids standing in line to the food bank? How many times your everyday routine was interrupted with the clogged traffic or endless construction noise. I'm Annabelle Tenko, and I'm running again. Last time, in 2018, almost 3,000 people believed in me. Just an immigrant girl who became a Canadian citizen literally a couple of months before the election. You believed in me, you voted for me, and I spent those 4 years working and volunteering, serving for our community, gaining valuable knowledge and experience to be representing you at the council since day one. I'm running again because I love my city, and I will work hard to advocate for more transportation and housing options for our young families, seniors, students, and minimum wage workers, and to take a bold action to mitigate climate change, because I believe that those actions must be integrated into all cities' policies and agendas. I will work to immediately declare the climate emergency and commit to immediate mobilization effort to restore climate stability, amend the tree bylaw to include the single-family and duplex zones, create more green spaces, and protect existing ones. I spoke about that in 2018, and we still don't have this document. I will work to ensure we finish climate and environmental strategy that includes the pathway to zero emissions by 2050. Yes, we established the bold goals, but we still don't have a roadmap. How we will achieve them. I will advocate to finally define what is affordable for our residents, because the common definition of affordability is not working. I will work to provide better access to council. So on October 15th, your choice will be as easy as ABC, because Anna Boltenko cares. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. We're going to start this round with the candidates running for councils. So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to give each candidate a chance to answer. 2 minutes. Please try to stay within the 2 limits. We're going to maintain the same order, so I'm going to start with Kathy. And the first question for you, Kathy, is what changes, if any, would you propose to tree bylaws in the city?
Thank you, Akshanda. I understand that in the city of North Van, we do have a tree bylaw currently that Don Bell mentioned, and that it applies to multifamily, construction of multifamily housing. And I know that there are groups advocating for this to be included in all zones, so single family zones and all zones. And I only heard about this issue when the election started, and so I'm well aware of the group that successfully saved the cedar tree up at Lonsdale, which was a wonderful advocacy. But I don't know enough about this issue to actually say what I would do. I need to understand it from different citizens groups, maybe from the Climate and Action Task Force, from other environmental groups and green space groups that are working in the city. So I would like to hear more from them and more from the city staff about why they set up the bylaw in the way they did, why they chose to include certain zones and not others. And then I would be equipped to have a full perspective and be able to say what I believe is the right path forward. So I think in a lot of ways, some of us as new councillors would need to do this research and get up to speed on these issues in our city in order to be able to make a decision. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Angela. Kathy, I'm sorry. Next, Angela.
Thanks very much. First off, I wanted to also acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I failed to state that earlier, and I wanted to take this opportunity to do so. Our city enjoys a diversity of urban trees and trees on private property, which we know play a critical role in ensuring our community remains healthy and sustainable. And that tree canopy also supports the resiliency of our community to withstand rising global temperatures as a result of climate change. there's significant evidence which demonstrates that trees absorb carbon from the atmosphere into their leaves, and during which carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere and is replaced with oxygen. And our city has devoted significant resources to expand this tree canopy, including the planting of 4,000 new trees in our parks and our boulevards over the last 3 years, which I applaud. We have an obligation to do what we can to preserve and increase our tree canopy coverage in order to ensure that we do our part to cool our environment given increasing temperatures. Our council recently approved a tree protection bylaw in multifamily zones, which was mentioned earlier, in order to protect the existing trees in these zones where feasible, which I fully supported. I would also be supportive of directing our city staff to further explore the impacts on the city's tree canopy of expanding this tree protection bylaw further into single family and duplex zones. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Max, you are next. And if you could please speak a bit more loudly into your microphone.
Hold on. Is this better?
No, a bit louder, please.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, I guess I'm going to have to be... okay, I'll try to talk as clearly as I can. So, to answer the question, so if we were to follow the city's, North Vancouver's smallest, healthiest city, it just seems like the logical step that when it comes to proposing or looking to expand the tree bylaw, that we should do that for single lot and for single lot family homes and for duplex homes. From the research I was able to sort of understand, and from sort of listening to people, I think that the city will be looking to do a complete zoning bylaw review at some point, I believe. I'm not too sure if that's true. I just talked to some city staff and they said they were looking into that at some point. And if that is the case, what I would first like to do before we even consider the tree bylaw, like expanding upon that, is to also look at to consider what homeowners are currently going through. What are their current obstacles? What are their current things that could be streamlined, made a lot more easier for them, made a lot less stressful for them as well, especially for those that are trying to sort of create multi-generational housing, or for those that are trying to make coach houses or laneway houses or suites, right? So I think that I would be more than happy to do that as well. Trees are great. I'm 28. I would like to have, a functional planet when I'm 75. So yeah. If it comes to the city and comes to like expanding upon that tree bylaw some more, I think some things I think council could consider is enhancement of free public education of the value of urban trees, as well as programs to offer free seedlings to local homeowners. I know that the city does have a little bit of that on their website, but I think that could be promoted a lot more. I think we can also promote more stewardship for local homeowners, similar to like the tree bait that you see in Portland, Oregon. It's like a one-time credit for water, sewer, stormwater bills for planting a tree in your residential yard as well. And I think that we can be a lot more bolder and look into those more things as well. So that's what I would be vocalized for and try to learn more about.
Thank you, Max. Jessica.
Thank you very much. So when council supported the development of our current tree bylaw, it was moved as an interim bylaw, and as part of the process of developing an urban forest management plan, and that plan has been contracted and is underway. The objective of that plan is to establish a baseline of information and to formulate actions and timelines needed to enhance, preserve, and expand the city's urban forest. That contracted work will provide policy direction for our future urban forest initiatives and align with the new climate and environment strategy. If you look at the draft strategy, the first action in that strategy under the first strategy section is to expand regulations and development tools to incentivize the protection of trees citywide. So there is a plan to look at the expansion of the tree bylaw. It was always intended to be expanded in the future and reviewed. Our current tree bylaw will be reviewed as part of all this work, and I personally support looking at the expansion of that bylaw in terms of the different property types and whether it's actually working in our overall plans and goals to enhance ecosystem health. So that work is underway, and my intention is to continue that. So all of these strategies and plans and regulations that we're looking at around our tree canopy and our forest are there to ensure we have all the tools available to regulate land use, to preserve trees, and to grow our tree canopy cover, which are stated as our city goals. And ensure we are appropriately accounting for and valuing all of the ecosystem services that they provide, as been mentioned by others this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Don, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I support the expansion of the tree bylaw. I was the one that brought it to council earlier this year and was pleased to see my colleagues supported it. I had, when I was mayor of the district of North Vancouver, I introduced what I think is the first tree bylaw on the North Shore, maybe in part of the Lower Mainland. My goal was to protect the trees because of the value that they have in terms of tree canopy, providing home to birds for shade. We've seen the effects of that during the recent heat dome and the heat waves that we've had. And how it's valued particularly for seniors and for children who are more susceptible to the effects of heat. Trees provide that shading. We know that trees provide carbon dioxide absorption. They are an important part, and I think the mention that Jessica mentioned, the urban forest management plan, I believe that the next step is to enhance the tree bylaw by adding single family and duplex. Developers who buy old houses and want to tear them down and rebuild like to clear the lot totally because it's cheaper for reconstruction that way. And I think we need to, you can't save all trees, but you need to save every tree that you can possibly do so reasonably. And I think the reasons we staged it was that we were new into it. We didn't know the total cost effects and the pros and cons. We'll get that, pros and cons, and we'll get that information from the staff. But I certainly believe the tree bylaw, when introduced, should have been broader than it was, but I'm happy to see it be dealt with progressively in steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Tony.
Thank you very much. So I was also a supporter of the tree bylaw that was recently put in place. And as mentioned in some of the previous conversations, this actually protects trees on multi-unit residential sites. And I recognize our summers are getting hotter, drier, and longer, and definitely we felt that over the last few days. And we know that trees can help provide us with relief and through the shade that they provide, as well as transpiration. One of the other things that we also need to think about when we're thinking about trees is that they're not necessarily uniquely spread across our city, and I think that's something that we need to consider in future bylaws. And as I talk about that, as a councillor, I've often said it's our job to look into the future and ensure that our city is ready for the future, while at the same time meeting the needs of today and bringing people along towards that vision. So I think in this, we need to be bold going forward. I know we've heard a number of comments today, and we do have the work underway from this council term, but certainly a focus does have to be on growing our tree canopy. I think that's fundamental to preparing the city for hotter summers. I think we also need to look at future bylaw updates that do address single-family areas of the city, and we have to balance that. Everything we do on council can have a double impact, and we know from other cities that there were impacts when they tried to expand their tree bylaws to single-family areas, where people got out aggressively ahead and started cutting down trees as opposed to saving them, which was the intent of the bylaw. But I do think that we have to strongly look at how we're managing trees in some of those areas that are more likely to have them, because protecting trees in multifamily areas is great, but we also need to realize that a lot of the existing trees we have may be in single-family type areas. So I think we need to look at expanding the protections for existing trees. I think we need to look at, as future developments come forward, ensuring that there is sufficient green space within them or around them. This council term, we have focused on bringing green space to Central Lonsdale. We have secured land on Eastern Avenue and at St.
Sorry, Tony, I have to mute you. Next is Shervin.
I think I agree with everyone who has said that we need to expand the bylaw to include the policy to include the all zones. I think in the city we actually don't have a lot of old healthy trees, and I think it is our duty to protect as many of them as we can. If I have time, I'll tell you a little story. When I was 4 years old, people would ask me what I want to be when I grow up. And I certainly didn't tell them I want to be a counselor. I told them that I want to be a gardener. So I think the connection we have to nature and trees it goes beyond just cooling down. I mean, obviously, trees are great for cooling down our temperature during extreme weather and producing oxygen, but I think there is a positive psychological and mental health impact as well that we need to consider. And one thing that we could do is move up some of the design reviews so that when before development happens, we have a chance to go through some designs that actually respect the trees that are on some sites. One of the reasons I ended up actually running for council was the incident that was going to happen to the tree on Eastern and 21st Street, that it was going to be cut down, and I was very encouraged by the community that saved it. And I wish that more of our politicians would have stepped forward to save that tree. But nevertheless, I was very inspired that that tree was saved, and we need to do more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherwin. Jeremy.
Yes, it seems like we have near unanimity on the tree bylaw and the expansion of it. I think that we all recognize that the climate change issues and the benefits of a canopy are pretty important, especially in an urban community like the city of North Vancouver. So I'm committed to protecting trees and green spaces and the canopy in the city. But we should remember that during the last term of the current mayor and councillor, we've lost about 30% of our green canopy in the city. We've lost parks like Norseman Park, which will not be replaced, even though that is the site of the new Harry Jerome Center. Across the street where the current Harry Jerome Center is will be high-rise towers. So I guess what I would say is that I support the 330-300 rule, which says that everyone should be able to see a decent-sized tree from their window. We need to secure 30% green canopy in the city, and everyone should be within 300 meters of a decent-sized park. You'll find a petition on my website, catoforcouncil.ca, that calls for an empty, city-owned lot on the 100th block of East First to be preserved and developed as a permanent green space in Lower Lonsdale, a heritage site with community gardens and even a place for dogs and their owners. This is a city-owned lot that is currently zoned for high-rise and commercial development. I think this should be a permanent green space in Lower Lonsdale. And that will be one of the things I will fight for if I'm elected to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Can I have Ron go next, please? Ron, you're on mute.
How's that?
Good.
Okay. Trees are a passion of mine. We actually, on our property, we have the largest Douglas fir in the city of North Vancouver. And one concern has been if we decide to sell our house, which was built in 1911, that somebody would take it down because it's worth a fortune. So I was on the Parks and Environment Committee years back. The tree bylaw was coming up on it. It was a priority. Problem was, though, the council that time, behind closed doors, decided to shut down the Parks and Environment Committee, which was really not a good idea because we were looking ahead. I thank Don for bringing this forward. We probably could have got it through 5 years ago if we had the Parks and Environment Committee. One thing I would do is I would reinstate that right away. I find contracting out for getting some of this work when we actually get people who are volunteering to do it for us is foolish. Trees are extremely important. Not only do they clean our air, they also offset some of the older stock houses' carbon footprint. So trees in private areas do make a difference. Another thing we have to look at is light pollution. Light pollution affects the trees. It affects the trees so they don't properly hibernate, they don't go down for a sleep, they don't come back, they don't clean the air as well. So light pollution in the city of North Vancouver definitely has to be looked at. Again, if I was elected, we would get the Parks and Environment Committee back in place because it was looking ahead at all these issues. And trees are extremely important to our livability in what is becoming a very densified city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Next, I have Holly.
Thank you. I really appreciate what you mentioned, Holly. I really do. I've been a volunteer for BC Thanksgiving Food Drive, and I do put out their flyers for people to donate. So I really appreciate your comments. Apart from what has been mentioned already in terms of community gardens and increasing the community gardens, I also thought of year after year when I volunteer for BC Thanksgiving Food Drive and also during my walks in the summer, I see a lot of front gardens in people's homes. They have all kinds of plants. And I see that towards the end of summer, they all just fall off and get rotten. So I feel bad because I grew up in that environment, in that culture that we don't waste food. So in connection to what Holly was saying, it would be nice to actually suggest or promote or have a project with local residents who love gardening to perhaps share what they produce that is more than what they need, and maybe have that community shop like Holly mentioned, where people can just bring in their excess for our brothers and sisters who have less means. That will be probably one way, maybe on a small scale, but it's still something that's not food that's not going to waste. The other thing that I thought of was perhaps really educate people and maybe have programs like even cooking classes to teach how to prepare food with local ingredients, how to prepare food using less meat as well. This will all contribute to sustainability. And yeah, that's my thought on those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mian. Can I get Anna to go next?
Okay. Whoever asked that question, thank you. In 2017, I finished my master's degree with a thesis around strengthening local food systems on the North Shore. And on that year, I was invited to join the Table Matters network. And since then, I was working as a principal author and created a guide for the North Shore municipalities called Infusing Food into Community Dialogue, Policy and Life on the North Shore. This guide was reviewed and accepted by Vancouver Coastal Health, North Shore Neighborhood House, Table Matters, of course, and 3 municipalities, the city planners representing 3 municipalities. And the goal in taking an infusing food approach was to articulate food's connection to a wide variety of hot ticket items like, of course, climate change, local economy, transportation, and even housing. But unfortunately, when the report was finished, it was March 2020, and all the food-related initiatives were reverted to the emergency response. But this project, though postponed, is not forgotten, because we're still food insecure. We just have 2 bridges to supply us. We don't have agricultural land, and we just have 1 urban farm. Thus, as a council, I will work to make sure that this work to implement and adopt the recommendations from this guide will continue. I will work and talk with the city departments and committees and various stakeholders to help them to get a better understanding how to connect food with their agendas. I had a plan to develop and establish the North Shore Food Security Task Force that will work to help to improve food sustainability in the city, because food security has multiple dimensions: availability, access, utilization, and stability. And this requires policies and strategies as well as coordinated approach. I will also support work to increase the physical, healthy food access, assets like urban gardens, farmers markets, and probably potentially another urban farm. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and I want to thank all the council candidates for answering all the questions. Like I said, if you didn't get a chance to answer the question, you can always send your responses to me, and I can make sure that everybody gets them. I'm very sorry it's 8:30, but we're going to go over our time a little bit. I hope it's okay, because I want to get Guy and Linda in. So I'm going to do a question round with them. We're going to start with Guy. So my question to you, Guy, is that inflation is affecting all of us, especially seniors on fixed incomes. This puts additional strain on the resources available from community services to vulnerable populations. What are your proposed solutions for tackling increasing costs and resource strain on our social services?
Thank you for the question. It's a subject near and dear to my heart. Every year since I left my last year on council 8 years ago, I've been working in the low-income tax clinic at North Shore Neighborhood House, assisting seniors and people on fixed incomes fill out taxes. And what you may not realize is there are 30 million people who pay taxes in Canada. About half of them pay and half of them receive. In order to get your full entitlement, you have to file your tax return, and sometimes the government can make that unnecessarily complicated. These income supports they have are not going up with inflation. We have a creeping crisis happening in our community and people who are on the verge of being unhoused. And the challenge is one that concentrates in the urban core. This is an important issue, and I watch at North Shore Neighborhood House where the gymnasium, which used to be for courses and exercise classes for seniors and new moms, it's now a warehouse for the food bank. Now, this is not really acceptable in our community that we would let people get so close to being at that level. What we need are stronger communities, more integrated, that also have the ability to draw on the resources of the whole community. And to do that, we're going to have to rationalize our governments and making sure that they're not taking up more of the tax revenue and more of the space, and that they're coordinating their activities on real needs. So things have changed in the world. Our governments have not. And we really need a change. We need a fresh look. So that's what I'm bringing to this election and this choice for you to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Linda, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for this question. This past few years have been challenging for all of us. For some, it has been harder than we can even imagine. Inflation is a huge problem today that affects everyone, but especially seniors living on a fixed income. So many in our community rely on our community service agencies to help them through these times. That's why, as a mayor, I'm committed to support core funding from the city to ensure that these agencies have the staff and the resources they need to help people through these tough times. Prior to being mayor, I was a public health nurse for 30 years across the North Shore. In that time, I worked directly with nonprofits, as well as children, seniors, and vulnerable people. I have seen firsthand the difference that access to services can make for a person. It's why we've ensured that services like the library, like many recreation programs and other city services, remain free for seniors, so they can remain connected to each other and to their community without fear of not being able to pay. At the start of COVID-19, I brought many of our service agencies together to coordinate their work so that no one fell through the cracks and everyone received the services they needed. 2 years ago, I reached out to the Greater Vancouver Food Bank and started the Mayor's Food Bank Challenge, a region-wide fundraising campaign that supports seniors and families who are struggling to make ends meet. As your mayor, I am committed to enhancing all health and social services so that this community can support you and be your home no matter what your income. On October 15th, I hope I can count on your support so that together we can continue to build a more inclusive city where all people can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. My next question to you, Guy, is the severe heat events in the city have had a great impact on many residents, including those in older buildings. What are your proposed solutions to address the effects of climate change, especially extreme weather events?
After the last election, I organized Block Watch on my block, as one would often do, and door knocking had become pretty familiar. I got everybody gathered together in a church basement and said, here we are. To a person, crime was not their highest concern. It was knowing their neighbors. And I think that, Blockwatch is a program of just the RCMP, but it should be a vehicle for integrating neighborhoods to deal with not just crime, but emergency services and mutual support. But it's an example of the silos in which all of our government departments and our governments operate, so that the end result is not the best we can do for our citizens. We need to take care of each other better, but we also need to look back and see that our governments are operating simply, transparently, and not building empires and duplication of service that makes all of us frustrated. So, yeah, we can do better. We can integrate our communities. We can get people to think outside of the boxes that we are all still stuck in. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Linda, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. I am extremely grateful for this question. This issue is quite personal to me, as my mother-in-law was among the 500 people who passed away during the heat dome last summer. Everyone deserves a home that supports their health and safety through extreme weather events. But the reality is, many homes, especially older ones, do not meet today's climate reality. That's why I brought forward a motion this June directing staff to look at what tools we have at the local level where we can support people and make our homes a climate safe space for all. Climate change is a daunting issue, so let me be very clear. As mayor, I am 100% committed to putting people first as we mitigate the effects of climate change and implement new policies and infrastructure for a more sustainable future. I am the only candidate for mayor prepared to lead on this matter. The draft of the Environment and Climate Strategy that this council advanced is a bold, region-leading strategy putting us on the path of being carbon net zero by 2050. The city is being recognized as a leader in innovative and progressive climate policies. From low carbon requirements for housing to the top-up rebates we offer residents who are retrofitting their homes with electric heat pumps, we are supporting people in making the greener choice. Over this term, we have delivered more sidewalks and cycling infrastructure that allows more people to move actively, reducing the reliance on vehicles. We have created outdoor spaces in every neighborhood that provide cooling opportunities. We've also put in place new emergency plans to open public facilities as cooling centers and to provide networks of support, especially for single seniors, to deal with heat domes in the future. As we grapple with the changing climate, we must support people, particularly our...
Sorry, Linda, I had to mute you there. I'm going to ask the next question. The city's sidewalks are seeing an increase in usage from skateboarders, scooters, and cyclists. What are your proposed solutions for ensuring everyone, including seniors, feels safe using sidewalks in this city? Guy, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you for this question. An example of kind of the obliviousness of the city is when the green necklace, which is made of asphalt and some people call it the black necklace, was run right in front of the Silver Harbor Senior Center so that they invited bicycles to go right on top of where seniors are going to walk. We have bike lane confusion around this city where we have put bike lanes around the center, around the outside of Grand Boulevard, through the center, and we don't properly segregate pedestrians from bicycles. We need to spend some time trying to make this place safer for seniors. Maybe it's putting baffles along sidewalks so that the skateboarders can't go all the way through. We put the knobs onto certain obstacles to make sure they don't become performance art for skateboarders. We do need to get people to pay attention, because with all of these new technologies and electric scooters, there's a high risk because our transportation modes are changing fast. But this needs to be an integrated one approach. The city is not an island. We've got to quit being quite so kind of inappropriately independent. We need to cooperate more with the people around us, and we're not doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Linda, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for the question. And you are so right. Everyone should not only be safe, but feel safe when they're walking on our city sidewalks. Safe and efficient movement around the community is a priority we all share. For too long, our cities have been designed with the car in mind. That doesn't work for all people and leaves many without options for getting around the community, such as seniors and those with mobility aids. And what I hear from residents is that we need safe, active ways to move. That's why I have prioritized different options for moving and connecting people, such as the Green Necklace, the Spirit Trail, building out our sidewalk network, and adding parklets and creating cycling and mobility paths. Recognizing that bikes, skateboards, and scooters are here to stay, it is absolutely critical we deliver the infrastructure that supports that active movement, while also educating people on how to share public roads and walkways with others. I am committed to working with all sidewalk and road users to ensure those public spaces are safe and accessible. We have more to do on this front, and I am just getting started. It is important to protect people from vehicles, and we also protect pedestrians from cyclists and others using sidewalks. When we put people at the center of our decision making, we can provide options that make it easier to get around regardless of the way we choose to travel. On October 15th, I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Linda. I'm going to ask one last question and then I'm going to let everyone go. Thank you so much. I know that we are over time. What is your position on the continued development in the Lower Lonsdale area? Guy, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you for the question. Me, Anne, and I live on 3rd Street, so we watch every once, at any time of the day, the cars can stop in front of us, and there will be a traffic jam from one bridge to the other bridge. It's obvious that the city and district have totally screwed up the planning of our community, because this is unacceptable. The development in Lower Lonsdale should proceed at the rate the infrastructure can handle it, because those people that just bought homes in Moodyville probably thought that some intelligence was being applied at the foot of the Second Narrows Bridge. But no, the district has been building mega towers, and where traffic plans in this community are only documents that developers submit to say that the traffic from their project is only going to won't have any material effect on the traffic in the community. Nobody has added up the cumulative effects of all of these developments on our community. We got to get it together. This is just ridiculous. The city is ridiculous and making our community, less livable. On October 15th, vote for change.
Thank you, Guy. Linda, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for this question. There is so much opportunity for people in community down at the shipyards and in Lower Lonsdale. For those of you like myself, remember what Lower Lonsdale was like 20 years ago? It's hard to believe the transformation. We've come a long way. Lower Lonsdale is now recognized around the world as a dynamic community with prosperous businesses, amazing restaurants and attractions, and a really vibrant atmosphere that is accessible and inclusive to all. But this kind of community asset was only possible because previous councils laid out a careful plan for its future. My plan has and is to ensure that Lower Lonsdale remains a community for everybody. We have an amazing opportunity with the new North Shore Neighborhood House to further enhance Lower Lonsdale for people. Over the next 4 years as your mayor, I am ready to get to work and move this incredible project along so that seniors, families, and others will be able to access services, a new park, and benefit from a new respite care center. Our success thus far with Lower Lonsdale and the shipyards is proof that together we can build a better community for all. There are so many possibilities. I hope you can all join me in my enthusiasm for all that our community is and everything that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda, and thank you to all the candidates for coming over this evening. I want to thank you all on behalf of all the audience that is watching you. There were lots of people watching, and I will, as soon as the recording is ready, I will be sending that out as well. And if you want to send me answers to the questions that you weren't able to answer, please send it to me this week so that I can send it out to everybody. On behalf of the library, thank you so much for coming, and